Hola.
We're back, dude. Welcome to camp.
We are back. We vowed to not say the episode number. I just realized how instinctual it is for me to say that right off the bat. But we are fucking back, baby.
I don't even remember which episode we're on.
I know. Time flies when you're having a fucking blast with your boys, you know?
Time flies when you're at camp.
Yeah.
So I had something I wanted to start off this episode with.
Let's hear it.
It's a fact, a fun fact. Babe Ruth once was rushed to the hospital because he ate too many hot dogs and drank too much soda. Did you know
Seriously? No, I didn't. But remember when Lil Xan went to the hospital and everybody's like, well, yeah, it's probably because his name's Lil Xan and he takes a ton of drugs. And it was because he had eaten too much hot Cheetos. Yeah. I think that's a real thing with like rappers is like they just eat like complete shit. Like I've seen like I've seen their writers before for like friends that have toured with them, and it's like it's always like Sprite and shit for their like posse to drink lean all day, and then just like bags of like Takis and hot Cheetos and random shit.
Well, like if you could go back in time, 19-year-old Ryan, a guy in a suit walks up to you, he says, "Hey, sign right here. You're getting $2 million advance for recording bass on this album for this band."
Yeah.
You get $2 million in your bank account. What's Ryan going and doing with that money? Do you think
we're going hot dogs and soda and going to the hospital?
First of all, I remember when you were 19, all you ate, and you prided yourself on this, that you said, "I hate vegetables. I only eat sandwiches."
Yeah.
When I first met you, all you liked to eat were sandwiches. So you would have, for sure.
Wasn't I vegan then?
No. You were vegan a couple of years after we started the band for a little bit.
Yeah. I was vegan for like
because of
2
my
years.
awful inspiration.
Yeah. But no, yeah. Before that, I think a lot of my diet was sandwiches. They're still like my favorite food.
Hey, I'm not even knocking you. Sandwiches are just great.
Dude, they're so good.
It's an American, like you were a good American boy.
Dude, I mean, with sandwiches, there's so many ways you can go. There's like the good old classic Reuben. You can get just like a sub sandwich if you want. You can go, to the Far East and you can get a banh mi from Vietnam. Like it's just, there's everything that you could ever want just placed between bread. It's the best.
When I see Reubens, I think of you lighting up when you look at one, because a Reuben sandwich, the sight of a Reuben sandwich reminds me of us being on tour, not having a good meal for days. And you just, the way that you light up about a good sandwich, dude, is the same look and sparkle that I remember seeing in my father's eyes when he would see a good sandwich in front of him. I specifically remember my dad making breakfast sandwiches every Sunday morning after ice hockey. And we'd come home and he'd get ham, egg, and cheese, and he'd get the English muffin, the classic English muffin ones that you buy at like Fry's.
Yeah.
With the orange label.
Yeah. Thomas.
The Thomas ones. He'd grill everything up, and he would, Andrew, come here, watch this. And he would want me to watch how perfectly he made the ham, egg, and cheese sandwich. He'd break the egg over the sandwich.
Yeah.
And carefully put it on. Like if something got fucked up, he'd freak out. It had to be the perfect
Dude, I'm
sandwich.
the same way, honestly.
And he would, dude, I'm thinking about it right now, how happy he would get. And that is such a great way to live life.
Dude,
to allow a sandwich to make you that happy.
Dude, sandwiches are fucking great. I don't even care. It's the best food. Like it's like my guilty pleasure. When I got arrested, that one day I got out of jail and I went to Firehouse Subs after, because like Firehouse Subs is like my dirty guilty pleasure. It's like how some people sneak like Taco Bell and McDonald's. Like for me, it's Firehouse.
Yeah.
But didn't I text you the other day? I was like, dude, I just made the best fucking sandwich. I made the best steak sandwich, and I said it was so good it would have turned Moby.
See, yeah, you texting me about your excitement about a sandwich reminds me of my dad. He would do that. He'd send me photos of his sandwich, or like,
dude, a good sandwich. I mean, I like reverse seared steaks, and then I put it on there. I made like a little vinaigrette on the arugula, and oh, it was fucking good. It like took me. It was like an hour-long sandwich preparation. It was really good. And then it was fucking gone right away, but it's worth it for sure.
I wonder what it was like, the first man on earth that ever created a sandwich and just discovered that amazing thing.
Dude, whoever invented bread, like that's
Because like you got to think the way that you look when you see a nice Reuben in front of you. Imagine what the man that experienced the first Reuben. What kind of explosions were going off in this man's head? You know?
I mean, he was definitely Jewish, so it was like just, dreidels spinning around everywhere, and he was just lighting up. He's like, he probably did like a jig, some sort of dance in there.
Yeah.
The funny thing about like me and Rubens is I think on tour, I've maybe ordered them like 2 or 3 times in our entire history of being on tour together. But Andy thought it was so funny that I ordered a Reuben once that every time we stopped at a restaurant, he goes, "What are you going to eat, a Reuben?" We'd always just say, he was like, "I don't know, Ryan's over there just eating a Reuben." And so everything I ate was Reubens to Andy, I think.
Yeah. Andy did this thing too where he started on tour. He would like to shame anyone that was eating bread. And so he would act as if he wasn't going to eat bread. We'd start a tour and be like, "Oh, I'm not doing any bread. I'm just doing meat and fruit and keto." Or he'd just be on a new fad diet at the beginning of every tour. And then all it took was one night out, and he was having a McDonald's sandwich, right?
Oh, dude, his thing was Coca-Cola in the morning. If he was like super hungover, you could tell like how much he was struggling by how many Coca-Colas he had in front of him at wherever we were eating.
Floyd Mayweather apparently drinks Coca-Cola after a very rigorous workout.
It's probably good for you.
Yeah. It restores glucose very quickly.
I bet. Dude, I mean, I had a Coca-Cola like last week for the first time in years, and it was so good that I realized I can't have any more.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I used to like, I just stopped. I just never drank soda. I'm like a iced tea or water kind of person. But Andy would also, he would judge us on like what we were eating, but then you're just like, you just haven't eaten. Like you didn't eat the whole night and you just went out. And then he'd be like, "Oh my God, you're gonna eat a sandwich?" And he's like,
like when we go to Chipotle, every time we'd stop at Chipotle, he'd look at Tanner when we were getting out of the van. He'd go, "What are you gonna get? A big thing of beans? You're gonna get a big bowl of beans?"
Dude, we ate
what a
so
funny
much
thing.
Chipotle.
We would actually we would argue about who ate the best on tour.
It was the best part was getting into a Chipotle because we went to like I think we've been to almost every Chipotle in the fucking country. It was like we ate it every single day for many years. And we would go in and it would be like near the end of the tour. And so that's when we started ordering burritos instead of salads or whatever. And somebody would be at the front of the line and be like, "What are you getting?" And you're like, "I don't know, man. Probably just like a bowl or salad." And he'd be like, "What do you don't want a burrito? You should get a burrito." And we'd try to convince everybody else to eat bad to be along with us while we ate a burrito because we didn't want to be the only person eating a burrito in the room.
Yeah, that's what you do in your band. You drag everyone down with you.
Yeah, well, we just talk so much shit to each other, and I think it's good because like it makes you actually change. Like if you have nobody in your life to talk shit about you and your actual flaws and weaknesses, then you're never going to change the things that are annoying about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where with us, we'll tell you straight up if you're annoying the shit out of us and like what's wrong with you, we just tell you. And then if you decide not to change those things, then that's on you. But we've done our part and you should change that. You know what I mean? And like that, there's been so many times where it's like, early in the band, I remember being like, "Damn, everybody's like always picking on me about random shit." And then I just stopped doing those things and I'm like, "Oh yeah, life's better." And also that's annoying. Like, why would I do that all the time?
Yeah.
Like you used to wake up loud as fuck every morning. And I think you stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Once everybody was just like, "Dude."
Yeah. Hey, drivers, no one wants to talk to you at 7 a.m.
No, yeah. It's
just go drink your coffee outside in the parking lot.
Call your fucking dentist or something. Oh, shit. Yeah, what have you been up to the last week or so?
The last week, I have been working in the studio a bunch, recording some bands, recording some different artists, mixing some stuff. I've been, we had a nice session yesterday with Katastro.
Oh, yeah.
A.K.A. me, you, and Tanner Riccio. I've been reading a lot. I've been trying not to watch as much TV, like when I get home. And I've been reading, and I feel like for the first time in years, I'm really enjoying reading again because I'm reading stuff that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And
you never were like a reader really ever.
I'd go through like spurts, but
like never on tour. I wouldn't really watch these.
No, on tour, on the last I feel like the last few years of us touring, I was watching a ton of tutorial stuff because I was learning how to produce in Ableton and like watching stuff about mixing and more like watching educational stuff, I guess.
Well, for me on tour, I did audiobooks, and that's like my main.
Well, you got me into a couple audiobooks on tour. I remember.
Yeah.
Like when we started. Well, the first episode of this podcast that we ever did, we spoke about the audiobook that you got me into, which was The Hot Zone. Yeah. Which is about the Ebola outbreak. Right. But I like books like that. I really.
In that first episode, we predicted COVID.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about things, and I was like, dude, I just like read this crazy thing on Reddit about like a small virus out in China, but they're saying it's spreading quickly. Yeah. And then I was like, do you remember we talked about that book? I was like, imagine if that like gets over, like that's scary. And then like within 2 months, we were not allowed to like go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't Ebola.
Yeah, I think people would have had different reactions if it was like, oh, sorry, now there's blood coming out of my eyes if I get this.
Yeah. I don't really, I'm not super into nonfiction stuff.
I love nonfiction.
There are a few nonfiction books though that are on my list that I want to read, but, I've been reading, some more books about psychology and, some philosophy stuff. And it's just interesting because for me, I think it's really stimulating. It gets my brain moving. And if I read in the morning, I feel like it kind of wakes me up. And it helps put me to sleep. I feel like if I'm not because I'm looking at a screen all day, working on music and being in the studio, if I go home and then turn on another screen, I think it's an overload for me. Yeah. And I think it messes up my sleep. And I've been reading about that too. And I guess there is stuff about that. If you don't look at any screens 30 minutes before going to bed, it's easier for you to slip into a better REM cycle. I don't know how true that is, but for me, it makes a big difference. Like if I really don't like to lay in bed and look at my phone while I'm trying to go to sleep. I don't feel refreshed when I wake up in the morning after doing that. I've noticed. I've been trying to pay more attention to that stuff though, and realize like, how does this make me feel? How does that make me feel? Why am I doing this? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been doing this cool thing where I wake up and I just watch people get murdered on Twitter.
Yeah, you told me that. I wake up. Yeah, and that's why you come to the Camp Podcast. You come for the spectrum of human existence.
Yeah, I do the exact opposite. I wake up and I'm like, oh, I should check Twitter. And then I'm like, oh, God, I just watched like a guy get murdered. The first thing I saw. And then I click on it. And then I go to the next video and it's somebody getting like, oh, here, I'm not kind of off the mic. It's somebody getting like, robbed in Brazil. And then the next thing, it's like another murder. And you're like, whoa, okay. Next thing I know, it's like I spent 2 hours, the first 2 hours of me being awake, shoving nicotine pouches into my mouth and watching murders. And then I'm like, I think it's time to go work out. I'll go make my coffee.
And then you come to the studio and you're like, I have anxiety today.
Yeah, I feel weird, guys. I don't know what's going on.
You tell us you have anxiety. We're like, I wonder why, right?
It's a good way. It's a good way to wake up. It's motivating. We're still here.
That's what motivates you to get up and work out. You're like, oh, I don't want to be that dead guy.
No, it's usually by the time I like get disgusted by what I've been looking at for long enough, I'm like, I should probably go have a coffee and get my day started.
Dude, things are moving fast, man.
I know. We've had some really good sessions recently.
Yeah. Yeah, we have. We had a really nice day yesterday at the studio. That session felt good.
Felt really good. I was like excited afterwards.
We basically knocked another song off the list yesterday, and man, it's been crazy. It's funny. I had I don't want to talk about it too much, but there's just one song on the album that every time I hear it, I can't not kind of break down almost.
There's a lot
and
of.
I think it's maybe the best song we've ever made as a band.
Yeah,
that's how it makes me feel when I like close my eyes and listen to it. I'm like, damn, this is the best fucking thing we've ever done.
It's so like moving and powerful, and it's different than like any of the other stuff that we've done, but we probably shouldn't talk too much on it. But I'm really excited I'm just excited for the whole thing. We kind of went through and listened to everything we have so far and made a list of like what we need to have done still and, how much work we still have. And we've done a lot, and people are already asking like, where's the album? But it's like, dude, we're going to take our time. We're going to make sure that this is the best thing that we have ever put out, regardless of the circumstances. And you know, we're really working hard to make it feel just like any other Katastro album. Just, you know, try to make it the best we could.
Yeah.
So,
it's been a journey, man.
It's been wild.
It's been a intense journey for me, dude.
I'm like anxious to just get it going because I'm so excited, but I'm also like really nervous of doing, I don't know, it's this weird thing where I can't tell, like the lines blur between anxiety or excitement of like, you know, how is this going to go? I hope people like it. But also at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I know for me, it's like my favorite thing we've done. And I'm not just saying that because of, you know, the circumstances behind the album and how hard it's been for us, but we've really like, because of, you know, losing Andy in the early stages of it, we've really had to zone in and we've had to write differently. And we've had to be like very conscious of every small tweak and move and everything we use and everything we don't use, because everything is so valuable to us. And like we are, you know, have such a finite amount of things that we can use. So it's like, I don't know, to me, it's the most thought out and just well done stuff so far. And we still have a lot of work, but I'm just really excited to just keep it going because I think people are going to freak the fuck out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, you were at the studio a couple days ago, and we were hanging out for a little bit after the session ended, talking for like 20 or 30 minutes, and we were kind of talking about the like limbo period we kind of feel we have been in, especially now with all of the other bands around us announcing tours, these big summer tours that we know we would have most likely been on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's hard to see. It's like hard to watch that stuff happen and realize that like we can't go do that right now, you know? And it's like, I don't know, it is as much of me that thinks that I'm like worked so much through it, and I have worked through a lot, but it's still like part of me is like that little bit of ego, and I'm just like, I just miss it. I miss like seeing people. I miss going out on the road and like.
What do you mean by that? The ego thing.
I mean, I don't know if it's drive because so much of my life has been, that's my good feeling. Like my good feelings in my life are being on stage and like feeling like the fucking shit and going everywhere and meeting people. And that's like what excites me and like makes me feel good, you know, is I love traveling. I love touring. I love all of that. And so to not have that in my life for the last 2 years is like this big kind of space. And so seeing like videos of like our friends or like Iration just started a new tour and it looks fucking awesome. And they're like in Florida going through gators. I'm just like, oh, it just looks so fun. Like I wish I was there. And so I don't know if it's like a jealousy thing or if it's just like I don't know. I just think I miss it a lot. And, you know, I want to see all those people and friends that we've made over the years again. And I don't know. It's definitely, it's difficult to kind of see all these tours and festivals and stuff happen and just not see your name on it.
Yeah, man. I feel like I've had some time to think about why all of that stuff was so important to me over the years of the band. And I think a part of it, it's such a weird thing, being in a band and just the whole setup of it. Like you're on this stage and then there's people, a ton of people that listen to your music that are below the stage, they're screaming and just like kind of like you're on this, you are on this like stage. You're on this, like you're being celebrated every night almost.
Yeah.
And I think to a certain degree, I feel like when you experience that for an extended period of time, for years like we did, it does create this false illusion within the ego part of you that thinks you're better than normal people. And I think I'm not saying we think that. I'm saying there is a sense, like it makes sense to me why some people just go full into I'm the shit, I'm this, I'm that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a ton of drugs, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want because I'm the man. And it's
like Rob Thomas. It makes you realize how you get the Rob Thomases of the world and the Mark McGraths.
it's just a danger, man. It's such a crazy thing, but really, what's really happening is just these songs are made, and for some reason, the four of us became friends at an early age, and we decided we were going to make songs together, and then all these songs started coming out of us, and this is the way I experience what it is.
Yeah,
all these people have found our music over the years, and they've come to sing the songs with us and celebrate the songs with us, not us. So I guess that's the way I now view it. It's as if we just created something really cool that all these other people are getting use out of, that same thing that we got use out of, and we're all experiencing that together. And I think if you view it like that, it's easier to detach from it and not think that you need to be on stage every day for your validity or your like identity to be confirmed in the universe, I guess. Does that make sense?
Sort of, yeah. But I mean, like we were kind of getting not jaded, but maybe like burnt out, honestly, like towards those last tours. We were like, fuck, we've been doing this a long time and it's hard every time. And we were making it harder on ourselves every tour just by adding more stuff and work for us to do, which I don't think, like, I don't regret doing it like that. I think that's what kind of what made us stand out, was how much we were willing to do to try to make sure our shows were different and better. But yeah, I mean, it's really easy to get run down and only look at those like really close up shots of, I feel like shit every day. I'm not sleeping well. I'm tired. This show didn't go as good. Why am I doing this? Like, how old am I and how long can I put up with this stuff? But now that it's taken away, it's like, oh, I miss that so bad. Like, I would do anything to go, feel like shit in Kansas City in a parking lot or something.
And the feeling of being on stage in front of people and doing what you love with your best friends is such an incredible feeling that I feel so lucky that I've been able to experience that. And, just a feeling like, in my perspective, when you're playing the drums and they're mic'd up and you're in a big theater and there's people everywhere and we're just in our zone and we're crushing and the drums sound fucking massive. It's just, you feel so powerful. It's like such a powerful, insane feeling that, especially when there's like people singing the songs, it's like, it's just this, like, damn, we're all doing this together. And it's like, not just the band, but the fans too. And it's like, this is sick. Like, what is going on here?
Dude,
have you ever thought about that? Like, what is going on? Like, music's crazy.
It's so
Music
dope.
is nuts.
I mean,
it's fucking magic. It's insane, dude.
Going out and then like just like doing sound check, and like right away if it's gonna be good. Like, and that's all that matters to me. If the sound's good, I don't even care how many people are there because I can just fucking go hard.
Yeah.
But like, especially like with bass, like that's kind of what drew me to bass as a kid. But like, I would go up and I'd play one note, and sometimes like your whole body fucking shakes, and you're like, oh damn, like people are gonna feel this, and like what you're doing is like
me and you,
moving into these people.
Bass.
Yeah.
And drums and bass have that similar thing on stage. You can play drums in a room or play bass in a room with like an amp, but when you're on stage and you feel the sub under that whole stage hitting when the bass and drums are hitting, it's like,
you feel it in your chest, and it's hard to breathe
crazy.
because like the bass is so loud, and you're like, my chest is tightening up, and like all this stuff.
Are you
like,
sure that's not just your nicotine pouches?
No, but it's like, have you ever been in like somewhere where it's like way too loud and it's like way too much, but you're just like, oh shit,
you
like
feel
you just
it
feel
in
it in
your
your whole
soul.
body, like everything's there. And it's like, that's what always drew me to this like big, like boomy sound, big, like that's why I always fucking love bass. Was just like, since a kid, as soon as I got like the upright bass, was like, oh, this is just bigger than anything else. Like, it sounds bigger than any other instruments, and it's thick, and it takes up so much space in music. And I don't know, it's just like, to me, that's what drew me. But we go to these like big venues, and like, I'm trying to remember one, but I think that like that one spot in Baltimore, the Pier that we would play out there, is like, I remember playing like one note and I just being like, oh, like I felt like my clothes were shaking, and you're just like, this is going to be sick. And like, I would go out every single night and just kind of like look people in the eye, and I felt like I was like fighting them, kind of like I was like, I'm going to go as hard as I fucking can. And if you don't know who we are, you're going to at least see that, one, I don't care how the fuck I look on stage, and two, I'm giving every single thing I have. And we would go out for, just a 30-minute set, and I'd walk off completely like out of breath, soaked with sweat and just like fully defeated, because it's like I was trying to give, if it's an hour-long set or a 30-minute set, I'm trying to give every single thing I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah, it's fun. I miss that though.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't know, it's so cool having all these friends in the scene, and everybody comes through Arizona, and it's really fun going to the shows and seeing people. And like, I don't know, like we've talked before, it just feels like a little different now, and being I don't know, just like the veil gets taken away. But it's good to just hang out with people and like we're not playing a show or anything. Like, we're just like, this is just our friends, and we're happy to see them like a couple times a year.
Yeah, it's been cool to get text messages from the guys in Iration being like, hey man, we miss you guys, wish you were out here this summer with us. And that shit gets you kind of like, damn.
Yeah, I know. Adam texted me the other day. That's what.
Yeah, because really the funnest part of those tours was just everyone being together and having so much fun together. And
yeah, it's the after the show.
The
That's
camaraderie that you build with all these guys, and just all of a sudden you've got like 30 brothers around you, and you're just like,
it's like a circus, you know. You just have like all these weirdo like roadies that are just insane motherfuckers running around, and they're working harder than anybody, but they're also partying harder than anyone. And you're just kind of like, oh, okay, we're all in Idaho, but we have the day off, and we're at like, or like, you know, we're in Idaho, but we're done. Nobody has to play for the next 4 hours, and we just are like hanging out in the botanical gardens. And you're like, this is so cool, because I would have never like come to Idaho and then gone to like the botanical gardens. But here we're just walking around in like nature, hanging out with our friends, like bullshitting.
That venue was really cool. I remember that place.
I lost my fucking AirPods there, so if you guys are there.
Can you check the garden for me?
Yeah, I think that was like my second pair that I lost.
In what ways do you think taking this long of a break from touring has helped you?
Well, at first it was really hard to readjust back to normal life, you know? I gotten so used to, like, my entire relationship, I'd been gone, or I'd been home only for like 2 month stretches, except for like the holidays, you know? So it's like, it was hard to come back and be just in a regular relationship where I'm home all the time, and like I have to do regular things that I'm not used to, just like basic around the house chores and stuff that I've never do except for, you know, a handful of months out of the year. It's just like this whole like adjustment of I get used to being home, but then I know in the back of my head I'm leaving in a month and I'm going to have to go do all this, and everything's kind of getting taken care of. So being home, I just felt kind of like suffocated, and that has nothing to do with like my wife or anything. It's just like that's how I felt, just being stuck, because I was like, I'm so used to being able to just leave and go do all this like exciting fun stuff, and now I have to find my own excitement and I have to find my own things. And also I'm dealing with like the most grief and pain that I've ever had to deal with at the same time. So for me, yeah, it was adjusting back to normal life, but now I feel like I've got such a cool routine in the last, even like I feel like in the last month, I've got this like pretty locked down routine that I just like love, and I'm finding a lot of joy. I'm fishing every single week now. I'm like getting time with my friends every week. I have time with you guys every week doing like music or in the studio. I have like one day to myself in the studio, just do whatever I want. It's just, I'm trying to like, I'm filling up my time in a way where I feel, okay, I'm exercising, I'm doing hobbies, I'm meeting friends. And like now I'm like, I feel very content with like being home and that. But it took a long time to just be comfortable with that new reality of, oh, I'm here and I've got to figure it out, you know? And like, I'm not able to just be like, oh, well, I leave in a week, so I'll take care of that in 2 months. It's like, I have to take care of that stuff now.
Yeah, you kind of feel like life was moving so fast for us for so many years that Andy dying made me face things about myself or about just my life and maybe what I wanted to change. And it almost gave us the ability to maybe slow down and view things from a different angle. And, you know, like we've talked about our identity being wrapped up in the band, and detaching from that in a healthy way, I think has been really beneficial for me.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
For sure, yeah.
It's hard when you do something for such a long period of time. And
I don't think it's like necessarily a full like detachment, but it's just, it's different now.
When I say that, I mean more so all of your self-worth as a person coming from something that you just do.
Right.
Which is catastrophe. Like, I'm not just like the drummer at Katastro. I'm just like a guy that does that. But like I do other things too. And I think that's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like you'd be selling yourself short if you were just like, oh, I'm just the bass player at Katastro. It's like,
no,
you're really good at that, but you can also be good at so many other things, and you are talented at other things. So it's like, I guess the way I used to think when I was younger, it's like, you got to go all in on one fucking thing, and that's the thing you do, and like everything else needs to get pushed aside because that's how you're going to gain success. But I think the older I'm getting now, I'm like realizing, okay, you can do a lot of different things. You just can't do everything. So you need to pick the things that you're going to do them well, and kind of figure out what buckets you want to fill. And that, even that in itself is very challenging. Because when life gets busy and things happen and your best friend dies or all this stuff, it's just, it's filling all those buckets and making sure you're not getting too empty on one of them. I don't know.
For me, I've been spending so much time recently just learning things, you know, and I've been
same, dude. Yeah,
like tons of different shit. I'm learning more about the synths. I've been like working, like I'm really into fly fishing now. It's like all I fucking think about. We're going every week, and I've kind of like randomly through the band met some like pro fisher guys that have a new like fly shop. So I've been stopping in there, and they've been really helpful. And like some of them have been taking me out every now and then. And it's just like, because of the band, we've met so many different people that some guy that doesn't even live here was like, hey, my buddy lives there. Go in there. Like, you've met him before. Go into his shop, like name drop me. I go in, I name drop like a loser. And he's just like immediately knows who I was before I even said anything. And it's just like, okay, now I have this whole other thing where I can get some excitement and adventure from once a week trying this new skill that's really hard to learn and really fun, even if I'm not good at it. And I'm like allowing myself to be bad at so many things.
That's the only way you get good at shit, though. You have to admit you're an idiot and you know nothing to get even remotely good at something.
Yeah, and every
that's
week,
the hardest part, dude.
Because I think I'm addicted to getting better at things. So it's like to me, I love being bad, and I love being the worst in the room. I say that all the time, but like it's so important if you ever want to be fucking great at something that you make yourself the worst in the room. And it's because everybody else is so good that you're surrounding yourself with, not because you're all shitty and then you just also suck the most. But, you know, at first it is like that. And it's just, if you're a bunch of, you know, if none of you know what's going on, you're not going to really progress. If you have to get in front of somebody who's going to like almost make you feel that shame of, oh, I don't know that yet, or I don't know how to do that, or I'm not there yet, because that's what I kind of feed off of, is having that drive, you know, because then you slowly get better. Every week I'm getting a little bit better, and it's like a little more smooth, and like my casting's a little better. And then I go home and I'm working on like, you know, learning Illustrator, or like, you know, working on just like random stuff that I find fun and that I think benefits my life as well. Because like for me, fishing is like the time away where I'm not thinking about anything else except for that one thing. But then learning all the other stuff is really practical to, you know, everything we do in our day-to-days, especially with the band and music. It's just not that we're going to use my designs, but it's good to know, because when there's merch designs, it's like, oh, I need to change the file, and like we should be able to do some of that stuff. So
yeah, you never know though. I mean, you're a really creative person, and the faster you get at using that program and the more you learn about it, you never know what you could do. It's like I learned how to edit video when I was like 18 in high school, just because me and Calvin wanted to make those stupid skits for CDS TV. And when the band started touring and doing stuff, we couldn't afford a videographer. So I was just like, well, like the first tour we ever did with Tomorrow's Bad Seeds, my mom bought me one of those flip cams for Christmas.
I forgot about that.
And I brought that on that tour, and there's still a video on YouTube. We'll have to like link it on the Camp Podcast, but there's a video on YouTube that's like a mashup video with like the Black Keys playing in the background, and it's just us traveling the country. It's like from Seattle to Denver, and it was our first tour. There's a video from my flip cam of that tour when the first time we ever played in Denver, and like 15 people showed up that knew all the words to our songs. Do you remember that? That was the first time. I don't
remember the first one.
Yeah, dude, the first time we ever played in Denver, there was like 10 or 15 kids that showed up, and they were like super stoked to meet us.
Was that
at
all
the words.
That place that had the pizza in it, Marquee?
It was Marquee Theater.
Yeah.
In Denver. Yeah.
I do remember
the small
that. Yeah.
Marquee. Anyways, but I just remember being like, oh, well, if I could just chop these clips together, you know, we could have our own videos to put out.
Yeah.
And that developed into like doing the Katastro TV stuff and editing that in the van while we were on tour. And now, like, I was watching some of the Katastro TV stuff like a week ago, and I thought to myself, like, damn, I don't know why I had such a drive to do that on those tours. Like, I remember before the big Iration one, I bought a new GoPro, like the new Hero 9 or something. And I just had this weird feeling in me that was like, you got to do this. You got to make these videos. You got to do this because, like, this tour is crazy.
Yeah.
And now, after everything that's happened, being able to have these, like, hilarious just memories that we'll always have from those tours and how much fun we had on them. I remember Andy, a couple months before Andy died, I remember him sending me a text one day, and he's like, dude, me and Derek just watched through a bunch of the Katastro TV shit. He's like, these are crazy. Like, we had insane summers. Like,
yeah,
that summer was nuts. Like, he was just watching through the whole 2019 Iration tour.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know, it's sick. But now I'm like so happy that, you know, I did, like, I'm happy that we have that to look back on. And it's just because I like learned something simple, you know?
I was watching those the other day, and I like saw the episode where we had like White Claws send us a shitload of White Claws, and we're like in Janice, and we're dropping White Claws down by like Christmas lights. And I was just like, dude, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That was just, it's so good to have those clips and just remember like, dude, we have done some crazy fucking shit in our lives. And like, I've already experienced more in my lifetime than most people ever will. And like, that is like fulfilling knowing how much I've done. I'm not saying I don't want to keep that going, because I do. And I want more experiences because that's what I've become accustomed to. And like, that's what I love. But being good with like what you've done already is like a kind of a liberating feeling, to be able to look back at your life already and say, you know, that's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, and that's what makes me go back to not wrapping your whole identity up in one singular thing that you do, because it's like, all right, if we look at all this proof that we did all this stuff, like look at all this stuff that we achieved with Katastro. In the next phase, I'm not saying we're not still doing Katastro stuff, but if that's, you know, when the seasons of our lives change and we start doing other things, it's almost like proof that it's like, if we could accomplish that stuff, what else could we accomplish in life? Whether it's different skills or different things that you're really passionate about, you know what I mean? And that's what I meant about the whole like Katastro TV video editing stuff. It's like, I wasn't saying that to pat myself on the back or something. It was more so like that skill allowed us to translate this story of the band in a fun way that we all thought was funny, you know? Like, I know your humor, I know Andy's humor. We would try to, you know, pass the camera around and film at funny times because we wanted to create this fun environment of people being able to experience what touring is really like versus what they just see on stage. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
the good part too is like the other bands would know that we would start, because we'd always start filming like after we'd been drinking for a little bit. So it's like later in the night after the show, like it's starting to get a little rowdy, and the other bands would kind of know that we're filming. And so we would have the camera out, or you would have the camera out, and then it's just like people are going like a little more wild, and it kind of feeds into this like, it's getting crazier and crazier the night goes, because people are getting like a little more drunk and a little more willing to do more on camera than they necessarily would. And like we would get like Jonathan Brecken to drink like a White Claw out of his like dirty ass fucking cowboy boots.
Yeah, and that whole tour, dude, what's funny is that was the first tour that I ever did entirely sober. I didn't drink at all that tour. And it began to be my favorite thing at the end of the night after the show. My favorite part was taking the GoPro out to the audience and filming all of the fans, because they'd be running up to me just drunk. Yeah. Katastro, like screaming. And so I just filmed them. And I remember every morning though, after the shows, I would show you guys the footage I have, and you'd be like, "This is amazing." It's just like two drunk guys screaming in Boston about.
I like the ones where like they obviously didn't really know us that well, or like didn't know our music at all, and they'd just be like, "Katastros," or like the Castro. Like they just wouldn't know what to say or do, but they wanted to like be a part of it because everybody else around them was like excited. Dude, it's so much fun.
Or sometimes Andy would just be like depressed and pouting while it's like snowing outside, and he just wouldn't want to be there, and I'd just start filming him. So even funny stuff like that.
Holy shit, dude. I would just remember he would just be sleeping and we'd just start blasting Mars Volta to like fuck with him, because if he like pissed us off, we would like wake him up hungover with like the loudest like death grips or something.
That's so good. Yeah. Hey, man, shout out to Katastro TV. If you guys haven't seen those, you got to go watch all of the Katastro TV episodes because I feel like there's still some episodes that didn't get enough love or didn't get seen by enough people. That there's just some funny stuff in there. And if you kind of want to just go back and kind of see Andy from a different lens, there's a lot of funny stuff in there where it shows just how funny Andy was. And I don't know, it's just cool to be able to pull those up and watch them sometimes. And
yeah,
I don't know, it's rad.
Dude, there's some funny ones. Did we film when we all went to Niagara Falls?
Yeah. I did. Well, I think Fick was with
there,
us,
yeah.
and so he helped shoot the Katastro TV episode for that one. And that was a cool thing too. Once we started bringing Fick out on the road and Sam Scares, these dudes were kind of helping make Katastro TV even sicker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude,
Niagara
that day
Falls
I remember
really
I was so hungover and I was tired. I think we had just done like maybe 10 shows in a row or something. Like I remember it was like after the stretch of like a ton of shows with no break or something. And we're in like northern New York, upstate New York, and it's just kind of this like I was just so fucking tired. Everybody's like, "Let's go to Niagara Falls." And I was like, "No, dude." And we go like 45 minutes out of our way to go there, and I'm like, I'm not leaving. And I'm in the parking lot. I'm literally laying down. I'm like, I'm staying in here. It was freezing outside.
We were with Tanner's brother, right?
I don't think so. I think it was just us.
Weren't we staying at Tanner's
we were
brothers?
going to afterwards.
Oh,
but I don't know
okay.
if you had met us yet. And we, but I remember just laying in there like, I'm not going. I refuse. Like, I'm not doing it. And everybody's like getting out. And Andy, like, I think he had like a blanket with him for half the time or something. But, everybody's like, dude, you have to, like, you're going to regret it. And I was so upset, but I like went begrudgingly. I just remember as soon as I walked up and saw like how fast the water was going, I was like, yo, this is nuts. And we went down there. That was like one of my favorite days on tour was just going, it was just really fun. And I like when like,
we were on that little train together.
if I would have stayed in the van, my entire day would have been so shitty because I would have just stayed in that headspace and like, getting out in that cold air and being like wet from like everything, like it like woke me up. I felt good again. And we were like walking and moving around and like it just, we were in that little train and there was no windows and we're just like, it was freezing fucking cold. Oh my God.
Dude, one of the really good Katastro TV episodes is when we go to DC and we're walking around by the Lincoln statue. Oh, yeah. And Andy, there's a moment where you say something about Abraham Lincoln or something. Dude, it's a really good episode.
So that day was the first day we ever filmed a podcast on. Was it ever? I think that was the first episode ever. Was in that hotel before we went to Washington, D.C.
We started the podcast on tour.
Yeah.
Was it?
Didn't we?
I can't remember.
I can't remember if it was like started on tour or if it was the first time we'd ever done it on tour. But I'm pretty sure it was the first one because we were like, hey, we have a day off. We have to do this. And it like was like really funny. No, because I remember specifically telling the warehouse story of me shitting my pants in the warehouse. I remember specifically being in like this small, weird room of like a hotel.
Yeah.
And
so I walked up to the lobby at the hotel and I asked the lady if we could use the banquet room, which is really for business meetings. I was just like, please, like we're in a band, we're on tour, we want to film a podcast. Can you please let us in there? And she was like really nice and let us use the room.
Yeah.
And we set my computer up. And I remember that though because we were like, we don't know how to do this.
We had these giant fucking Dunkin' Donuts cups. We were definitely on the East Coast.
Yeah, we ran across the street and got Dunkin' Donuts.
I remember like feeling so excited after the first episode because it was actually like legitimately funny. And I was like, oh, dude, this is fun and it's different. And we never like really thought about doing it. That was like, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
Had
to have been.
I guess it was 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
3.5 years ago, probably.
But that's what like sparked once we started doing like the podcast and stuff like I was like, oh, this is something completely different than the band that I find a lot of joy in doing. And I don't know, I want to like I knew as soon as we started doing it, I was like, dude, we can do something with this. We can make this bigger and we can grow it. And it feels good to finally be in like a legit studio. We got like some awesome people working with us. Shout out to our boy Stevie.
Shout out Stevie.
Behind the camera.
I think the most interesting thing about the podcast too is that I feel like people have a perception of maybe who we are from only seeing us on stage or I don't know, like Instagram or something, to like hopefully people feel like they're just in the room kicking it with us because we kind of have these unfiltered conversations. We don't even know. Like when we showed up this morning, we didn't know what we were going to talk about.
No, not at all.
I had no plan. We just, right before we started, you're like, what the fuck are we going to talk about?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about it for the last like 2 days. I'm like, I don't know.
It's so much better when we don't know. It's better.
The whole like having preconceptions is so funny because like I remember we stayed at somebody's house who they like let bands stay there on tour. And she's like, wow, you guys are like really nice. And I was like, what did you think we were going to be like? Because we are kind of like total assholes to each other. So if you're on the outside, it probably looks like we're just really fucking mean. But we only do that to our friends.
Yeah.
But she's like, I don't know. People always said like you guys are a bunch of like little rich kids that like your family's paid for everything. We're like, what the fuck? What? You couldn't be like further from the fucking truth with us. And
That's
I mean,
crazy.
like none of us were like really struggle when we were young. But it's like it just this whole perceptions of like who you are.
Yeah,
and like
she
how you
started
like,
telling
like, people were like thought that we were like given all this stuff.
Tell me if
like,
I'm wrong,
dude.
but I remember, dude, I remember when we moved out to Huntington Beach, we were 22. We were super broke. And someone from Arizona told us, like, yeah, we were kicking it with this local band. I'm not going to say who they are, but you definitely know who I'm talking about.
Can you say the first letter?
B. But someone from this band apparently told one of our friends, or it got back to one of our friends, that they're like, yeah, Katastro, they got this like crazy, deal and got handed like $500,000, and that's why they moved to Huntington Beach. And like, meanwhile, the reality of the situation was
I was on food stamps. I was on food stamps.
Meanwhile,
trying to buy salmon at Whole Foods and like just going with the stairs.
And meanwhile, the reality was we literally played at Makayo's Depot Cantina in Tempe. Shout out Makayo's. Shout out Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff let us play there every weekend for months, dude. Like there was a Halloween night where we literally played in front of our parents. Just our parents. Like that's bad.
Dude, the one time that my dad decided to come, we all like dude, we would get so drunk. That was in the very early days where we like didn't care.
The night Andy got hammered and started bragging about all the weed he had back at his house.
Yeah, it's the only time my dad ever came to like see anything, and we are blacked out. And we're not even old enough to drink, I don't think, at that time. And Andy just starts rolling on the floor, squealing. Like, if you know Andy, you know what I'm talking about. And he was just like, like just doing that. And I was playing the bass with one of your drumsticks.
You were,
it was
I
just
remember
chaos,
that. Yeah.
dude.
There's some videos. Someone sent me a video recently on YouTube of us playing at Makayo's.
Yeah.
So if you really,
but because of that, so we would go do that every week, and he would pay us. I think it was like we get like $1,000 a month if we did it every week.
So we saved all that
like,
money.
Yeah, we were like very adamant about not being a bar band because it's really hard to break out of being that. Like, if you're gonna be playing a show at a restaurant, then nobody's gonna come see you at the main concert that you do because they're like, I'll just see him for free at this restaurant, But that's how we saved up enough to get movers, and I think Jim helped us with the movers a little bit too. But yeah, we went out there with it, dude. I remember I ran out of money, and I had a laptop. That's the only thing I owned. I just had to sell my laptop for like $150 and my rent. I think my share of rent was like $250, and I couldn't come up with it. I was just I had nothing, and it was like 2 days, and I was like, I need this laptop to sell within 2 days. And so I put it up for like $250, it was like a new Mac at the time, or newer, like maybe like 2-year-old. And like nobody was doing it. I was like, dude, I have like 12 hours to sell this, and finally just had to go sell it. And I remember Andy being in the car, like taking video of me just laughing because I was selling my only fucking belonging so that I could pay $200.
I remember just being so worried about money, dude. I remember being so stressed out about how we were going to pay our bills when we
It's
moved
the
out
worst,
there.
dude. But also, it's like we were at the right age to be able to
go eat shit sandwiches.
Yeah, and like live. Like, dude, I was literally on. I mean, I think half of us were on food stamps. I think most of us were for a little bit.
Yeah.
and I was just, it was like I was eating like whatever like you guys would bring back from Whole Foods that was expired.
Do you remember the time Andy went on a date with that girl and he didn't have any money, so she handed him she fucking handed him money under the table so that he could pay the bill because they were with another couple, and then he came back and told us that, and we were like, dude, what the fuck?
She would hand him her credit card underneath the table so it looked like he was paying, but I'm sure the guy would get the card and it would just say like Kaylee on it or whatever. Like,
oh shit, what time we at, Stevie? 50?
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep it going for just a little bit.
That's pretty good. But I didn't. The clock went out, so I was like, oh.
Dude, those the California days were wild. They were really like, me and Andy would go like every day. Not every day, but like probably like once a week. We'd be super hungover and we'd be like, hey, let's go get some fast food. And I was like, word. And so we would drive without telling you guys what we were doing, and we would go.
It'd be a secret.
Yeah, we'd go get fast food, and then we would go into his car and we'd park right next to the dumpster, and we would just secretly eat like the grossest shit, and then we'd throw away all the evidence. And we were doing this for like a long time, and nobody knew that we were just always going to get fast food.
Are you talking about the parking space that was next to the dumpster in our apartment complex?
No, we'd be at the dumpster at the fast food spot, and we'd
like
eat in the car because we were like embarrassed. And so we'd be eating back there. And then we'd be like, all right, get rid of the evidence. We'd say that every single fucking time. It was like, it's time to get rid of the evidence. He goes, it's time to get rid of the evidence. And we go scrounge around for anything that's in there. And we're like, dude, it smells like fucking grease in your car. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. And so like, we would like literally try to hide it. I don't know why. We just didn't want to hear you guys complaining like, ew, that's gross. And so we would do that. And then I remember one time Tanner got in the car and there was just like a Taco Bell like hot sauce packet on the floor, and he goes, well, what is it? He holds up like a fire sauce packet, and me and Andy just look at each other, we're like, you fucking idiot. We were trying to get rid of the evidence.
You didn't get rid of the evidence.
Oh, dude, it was so funny. We'd be like, hey, let's go to the beach. And then we would just go sit there for like 30 minutes and be like, this sucks. Like, dude, it's so sandy.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Every time I go to the beach, 20 minutes in, I'm over it.
I don't like it.
20 minutes in, I'm over it.
I'm a pool guy.
Yeah.
I like the pool. There's no fucking dirt everywhere.
Do you though? I don't think I've ever seen you go in a pool except for that one time you got naked in my pool when we were 17.
Yeah, we should save that story for when your mom's here.
We will, but it's just a little. It's
just
a little precursor to it. Yeah. You know, a little drop that real quick.
Yeah, it was also the first time my parents found out I drank. So
yeah. Also, if you're listening to this, I need you to just go message us and let us know. Do you want us to bring my mom onto the podcast? Because I think that would be a really good episode.
I think it'll be good for sure. Damn. Yeah. Let's. I think this is a good spot to wrap this one up at.
You're listening to the Camp Podcast, man. Welcome to camp. Thanks for hanging out with us. And anything else you have to say?
Sayonara.
Sayonara.